Project Boro is now available as a podcast on your chosen podcast providers, so you can listen to every episode on the go. Simply go to the description of this video, click the link to the podcast provider of your choice, and subscribe or follow Project Boro, and you'll be able to find all episodes past, present and future right there for you to listen to on the go. Middlesbrough Football Club wins a game of football. They score 3 goals at home. The playoff fight is back. Okay. Let's not get too carried away about what this win means and how it came about. But Middlesbrough Football Club have won a game of football, and that is just something I would like to talk about for a change.
He's in, and he's snuck it across to Hayden Hotney!
What is up, guys? Matthew here, and I am here today to talk about something called a Boro win. Now, a Boro win is a rare occasion. It doesn't happen very often these days, especially at the Riverside and against a good team like Norwich, who were in very, very good form. But I am delighted to say we got the 3 points we desperately needed. And I mean, it doesn't matter how they come, and I said this after the shambles at the weekend, you know, another one to add to the long list of terrible performances. I said at the weekend after Boro lost to Stoke that we just needed points. Didn't care how they come, didn't care about performances, didn't care how we looked. We were getting into a position where we were starting to look over our shoulders, and we just needed points. That is exactly what we did here. Now, as much as it was 3-1, as much as it looks good on paper, we have obviously got to talk about how the game started, the turning point, which absolutely flipped the game on its head, and how Boro kind of reacted to that afterwards. The first thing, though, was the Boro team, because we've been crying out for Michael Carrick to change the setup for a long time now, and I think fans were getting a little bit frustrated, a little bit impatient that, as we've said, he seems to be doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And we've seen him tweak things away from home at times when we've been up against Leicester, for example, and we did it once at home to Chelsea and Villa in the Cup. But we don't do it very often in the Championship, especially against sides who aren't running away with the league and in a different planet like Leicester. Well, we did it here. Boro adopted a back 3 at home to Norwich in a change of system, with Engel back in, thank the Lord, as our left wing back Luke Ayling was on the right hand side. He sat Howson and O'Brien together in the midfield 2, dropping Dan Barlas. A return for Johnny Howson as well, a lot earlier than we anticipated, with McGree, Lath and Force kind of the front 3. I mean, on FootMob it has a front 2. And I guess McGree was sort of roaming around. He was more on the left, and Force was more on the right. It wasn't a set front 3 by any means. But as soon as the team dropped, I've got to say, I felt a surge of optimism. And that just shows you how frustrated I think we've all been with Boro of late, and how we've just seen the side, we've seen the lineup, we just know exactly what we're going to get out of it, the performance, and the results are kind of a foregone conclusion. And I think just to see something different, something fresh, was just a real jab in the arm, you know, of optimism and hope for the game. And fair play to Michael Carrick for changing it, you know, and looking to find new system, looking to change things. He's been criticised of maybe being too stubborn, maybe not having a plan B, and I'll get into whether this worked on the whole, but I was just happy to see that he was willing to try something different. And it wasn't just the formation that was different, because Boro's entire approach was different in the first half of this game, the first half an hour. We were happy to give up the ball. We sat back at home. We were playing like the away side, and we were happy to give Norwich possession. We were happy to sit back, sit deep, and I assume try and catch them on the counter, as you know, get them on the transition, as we've done effectively against Chelsea at home, as we did effectively against Leicester away from home. However, I will say the setup, full of optimism, happy and glad Michael Carrick was up for changing something. But the first half an hour of this game was absolutely terrible. Now, I'm not going to let the result sugarcoat the first half, or the first half an hour was absolutely awful. And it was level with the recent competition of the worst half of football we've seen from Boro. When you look at Plymouth, you look at Bristol City, you look at Stoke, the list goes on. The first half of this game was heading that way. It was dreadful in that first half. You know, we couldn't string a pass together. We looked like Michael Carrick had literally just told the boys to go out in that formation before kickoff without any instruction, because genuinely, in that first half an hour, the boys looked lost. They looked like they had no clue what they were doing at all. We had nothing going forward. We were slow. The same old criticisms we've been throwing at Boro at home for a long time. The difference being we didn't actually have the ball as much. Whereas before, you could argue we had all the possession. We just did absolutely bugger all with it. In this game, we barely had possession. When we got it, we gave it straight back. And we were utterly getting dominated by Norwich. They were absolutely all over us, and it looked like, despite Boro's setup, we were still conceding chances, and it was a matter of time before Norwich scored, and that's exactly what happened, because Ashley Barnes put Norwich ahead on the 17th minute, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this either, despite the result, because this was one of the worst goals I've seen a side concede, and it was a pathetic excuse of a goal from Boro's defence. Ashley Barnes, if he was a FIFA card, or he probably is still a FIFA card, I don't know, I don't play FIFA, I've never played Ultimate Team in years, but I'm assuming his pace doesn't get far past 60, yet he was able to run in behind, not one, not two, not four, but three of Boro's centre-backs. He got in behind Clark, Vandenberg and McNair. He was able to take the ball down, miskick his initial shot, and then still have the time to take a second shot, which kind of rolled by the side of Seny Dieng into the back of the net. The Boro centre-backs stopping in hope that an offside flag would save their backsides when it clearly wasn't. You play at the whistle, they should all know that. And it was a calamitous goal to concede. Probably one of the worst goals I've seen Boro concede this season at home, and it just continued to epitomise Boro's defensive woes this season. And honestly, I was glad I wasn't there when that goal went in. I've not been able to go at the game tonight, and when that goal went in, I thought, wow, this is going to be ugly. We were getting battered, we conceded a shocking goal, Norwich were absolutely all over us, we couldn't get any of the ball, and we looked like we'd never played in this setup before, and that we'd not done any training on it, and we'd just been literally put in this system before kick-off, and I was worried. I thought this could be 2, this could be 3. It looked like it was the most comfortable, cruising, easy night on Teesside for Norwich, and they'd be cruising back down to Norfolk with all 3 points. And then something massive happened, and on half an hour, Norwich had a man sent off. Borja Sainz was sent off and was given a straight red card for an apparent kick-out to the former Norwich man, Johnny Howson. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, and this is me as a Boro fan, this is me as a neutral, this is me as a logical fan of football. I thought this was soft. I honestly did. Now, I'm not complaining, of course I'm not. Boro, many times this season, I think, have been on the wrong end of certain decisions, have been unlucky a lot of times this season, and I know every team will say that, swings and roundabouts and all, I get that, but I'm not going to complain that this was a red card. But I would be very, very annoyed if I was a Norwich fan, and if the shoe was on the other foot, I'd be extremely annoyed if that was a Boro player getting sent off for that. Now, it's hard to see from the replays, and I guess it's a black and white rule, isn't it? If you kick out in any form, you're off. We've seen it over the years. We saw it with Beckham many, many moons ago. Was it the World Cup against Argentina? I mean, we've seen this kind of thing. It is one of them rules in football where it's black or it's white. You know, if you kick out with any force, you're sent off. It's the same if you go head-to-head with someone and you even slightly push your head towards theirs. It's force. It's reasonable force towards the opposition player. And in the rules of the law, it's a red card. Now, it looks like if he has kicked out, it's the slightest kick out. But I saw someone make a good point about this on Twitter. I don't know if it was a Norwich fan or a neutral, but maybe reputation's played a part in this, because apparently Boro has a reputation for these petty, silly kind of fouls. And obviously Johnny Howson, who was on the end of it, has a reputation for being a very honest professional. So when the referee sees Johnny Howson holding his leg and saying the referee's just kicked out at me, and you've got Borja Sainz on the floor who's done this before, I imagine, or something similar, the referee's going to look at that and it's probably going to help him draw to the conclusion he does. You could also maybe argue if Johnny Howson has any form of a stud mark on his leg, that makes the referee's mind up instantly. I will just say, by the letter of the law, it might be a red card, but it was a very, very soft one. And I can see why Norwich fans would be upset by it. I can also see why, in the rules, it was given. It's a tough one, but nevertheless, that was the flick of the switch for me. The game literally flipped onto its head, and it was a different game after that. Boro obviously now had the onus to go after Norwich City, take possession, be the side who was pushing forwards. Norwich, of course, had to change their shape, make a couple of subs, try and hold on to what they had. And this is where I will credit Boro, because there is an old cliche, it's harder to play against 10 men. Now, I don't believe in that. I don't think it's true. 10 men obviously sit deeper and you've got to work harder, I guess, to break them down. But I think it's, especially in the position Boro are in, where they're desperately in need of points, the longer Boro went on, 1-0 down, 10 men, or against 10 men, I think with how the Riverside was, how anxious and tense the ground is, of course, with recent form, it would have gotten harder and harder and harder for Boro to get that breakthrough. And maybe we'd have gotten desperate. Maybe we would have tried to force the issue, pardon the pun, because he scored in a bit. When I say force the issue, I think it's easy for a side in that position who are that desperate to maybe struggle in a situation like this. And I think scoring as soon as possible is vital. And Boro got not one, but 2 goals between the 30th minute and half-time through both of their strikers, with Marcus Forss and Emmanuel Latte-Lath. Now, we were helped massively by some questionable Norwich defending, but the first goal was very, very well worked from Boro. This is more like it from what we've seen from the side. Lewis O'Brien playing a wonderful ball through the Norwich defence. It went to Lucas Engel, who hadn't had a great half up until that point, but I tell you what, he really came into his own in this game. He got into that position we always want to see him in, put a low cross in towards Latte-Lath, contested ball, come back towards Marcus Forss, who with that striker's instinct reacted first and tapped the ball home to level up. And it was a massive goal for Boro. Like I say, take that advantage of Norwich's out of the equation as soon as you can, get level, and then suddenly you've got a man advantage and it's your game to go and win. And Boro instantly doubled their lead on the 43rd minute, and this time it was Latte-Lath. And again, you'll notice a pattern, another cross, this time from Matt Clark, who'd advanced forward. Not good defending from Norwich here. They completely misjudged the cross. I don't know who was meant to head it. I don't know if it was former Boro man Ben Gibson, who just didn't jump or whatever, but the fullback behind Lath slipped and fell over. It was all a little bit comedic from a Norwich point of view, and Latte-Lath was able to pounce on his first touch and again finish into a pretty empty net. And Boro somehow went in to half-time 2-1 up, having been by far the worst side in the first half an hour. But the red card completely flipped it, and I'm not going to sugarcoat how bad Boro were in that first half an hour and how terrible the goal was. But we took advantage of the extra man, and you've got to give it to us that when put in that position under these circumstances, as I say, could have gotten tense, especially if we'd have gone in at half-time still 1-0 down. To be in front gave Boro a fresh, clean slate heading into the second half with a man up and a goal up and a great position to be in where we could all relax a little bit. And the second half, Boro were much better. You know, I think given the caveat that we were against 10 men, it's very difficult to judge and get too excited about Boro's performance because this is sort of the least you expect when you're playing against 10 men. But I thought the shape looked a lot better. We looked a lot better in possession. You could just see, even after the first goal went in, transformed into a different side. It was like we were just oozing confidence and belief. And you could tell to start the game, this was a side that was literally sapped of any of that. And one goal changed everything. It's crazy what a goal can do to a side. In second half, we looked like a much better side. And I think equally Norwich, with a man down, they didn't look too great either. Didn't really offer much going the other ways maybe you'd expect. And Boro made absolutely sure of the game on the 62nd minute. And Lucas Engel scored a beauty of a goal. Once again, notice the theme, a cross from the right-hand side this time, Luke Ayling whipping the ball in, and Lucas Engel with a first-time finish, a cross goal into the bottom corner. A fantastic finish by the Great Dane, and that put the game beyond all doubt. But I had another couple of chances. McGray had a shot on goal that was saved. But overall, thankfully, Boro got control of the game when we needed to early, and we kept hold of that throughout the second half and ended up taking home 3 points. A massive 3 points. The first win we've had at home since the end of December when we beat West Brom. Now, as I say, I'm not wanting to get too caught up on the performance because it's all about results at this moment in time, and this 3 points is just ginormous for Boro in every single way. Was I convinced by us in this game? I'm not going to say I was fully convinced. I think the first half was absolutely terrible, and that cannot be understated how bad we were. And the question that will be obviously put is what if had Boro not gotten Norwich hadn't gotten the sending off, would the game have changed? By the pattern of play up until that point, Norwich were cruising and were probably heading to a comfortable victory and might have even scored a few more. And it might have been another really ugly night at the Riverside for Boro. But the sending off changed the game. Boro's equaliser gave us that little boost of confidence and we took the game from there. So you'd like to hope, even if this system was an experiment that didn't work, or we do continue to utilise this going forward, I'd be happy to see this away from home at the weekend against QPR. I think the jury's still out on whether we do this again at home. But yeah, I think just to get the result on the board's massive. And one thing I will say, and this is what I mentioned about the goals Boro scored, what we did do, and maybe this is because of the system we played, or maybe it was due to instruction, but we had a lot more width in this game, and we've struggled. We've not had any width recently when we've been performing really badly. We're always cutting in field. We're always sort of running into each other's spaces, condensing the middle of the park, and you make it so harder to play in such tight areas, and all you need is the opposition to just box that midfield, and Boro can't get through. It's nice to see us doing what we did very well last season, stretching the play, making the pitch as wide as possible, and getting the space on the wings to whip balls in to the box. And that's where every single one of our goals come from. Lucas Engel crossed the ball in, which helped cause the first goal. Clark's whipped ball in, got us the second, and Ayling's got us the third. So regardless of if we stick with this style or the formation, I hope we keep this width, and I hope we continue to just bombard balls into the box and keep Force and Lath in there, because they were both in between the widths of the posts, which is where you want them in these areas, and they were both able to pounce on individual moments, and that's where their goals come from. So I think there's certainly positives to take. Let's not just say this was a flash in the pan and it was all luck for Boro. Lots of little positives and things to take forward. I think, as I say, I wouldn't go for this exact setup at home anymore in terms of sitting off. I think it really mellowed the Boro crowd, and they were already quite quiet as it was given recent events. And I think when you don't have the ball and the opposition is basically rocked up at your home ground and is just running you ragged, it makes it a more tense and anxious atmosphere. I think when you're at home, you've got to be the side with the ball. You've got to be the side dictating play, taking it to the opposition. So I wouldn't do that again at home. I wouldn't give the ball to the opposition, but I would still possibly stick with this new formation. And I would definitely keep the width, because moving on to the Boro side, there were certain players who just looked a lot better in this system. Matt Clark specifically had a better second half. Looked a bit shaky to start with, as did a lot of the Boro players, but I think the back three worked quite well in this game. The midfield looked so much better balanced with Howson and O'Brien in there. Howson was tremendous. Seeing him back in was absolutely brilliant. And although Ayling didn't have his best game again, and Engel didn't start the game particularly well either, they both contributed to the 3 goals tonight. And Engel especially really come into his own second half and looked on a different level towards the end of the game. So that's not only a sign that Carrick needs to stop bloody playing Luke Thomas over this man, but when he's at wing back and he maybe doesn't have to look back as much, he's got Matt Clark there to defend him, you can take the handbrake off and let Engel push on, and it's clear how effective he is in the final third. I thought McGree looked a lot better as well. You know, whether he was on the left or he was roaming inside, picked up the ball in some really good areas. He's very good at that, Riley McGree, on his day. Very good at noticing where the space is, picking the ball up, bringing others into play. A lot more effective in this game, and it was a welcoming sign to see both strikers on and both strikers score, especially. You know, they both, as I say, instinctively latched on to moments and took their goals really well. It'll hopefully do their confidence the world of good. And I think seeing them both playing a little bit more in the box and, as I say, in between the sticks is a big positive. So, yeah, we'll never know what would have happened had the Norwich player not been sent off, but Boro took advantage, and as you can see exactly where the game turned when we look at the momentum. We were getting battered up until that point, and after that, Norwich barely had a sniff, and it is reflected in the stats again. Not really a reflection on the whole game, especially the first half an hour. Norwich had a relatively good XG. They would have had a lot more possession. Boro had nowhere near 62% up until the sending off, but we took control of the game after that. Had quite a good few shots on goal, a lot more creative than what we have been recently, and looked a little bit more of a threat too. So yeah, a sigh of relief, I would say, from Boro, and if anything, a slight step in the right direction, despite not being fully convinced 100%. What that does to the league is it puts Boro back in the top half. You know, we're into 12th now, and win a game in hand and we're 7 points off the play. No, I'm not going to go there. We all know that this is probably going to be where Boro finish this season. The main thing for me was that we were starting to look over our shoulders, and I said after the Stoke game, 2 wins would do it between now and the end of the season, and I think we've got one already. Things already look a little bit better, but I think one more win would just about do it. And as I say, if we were to win our game in hand, we'd be in 10th, which I think ensures we're going to be absolutely fine. You know, we were lingering above that very congested bottom end of the table. I mean, it is ridiculous, you know, from Plymouth in 16th down to Sheffield Wednesday in 23rd. 2 points separate them sides, so I'm just glad we are not in that mix, because that would be truly, truly horrible to be in there, you know, and one given result, you know, one loss and other results go your way, you could end up in the bottom 3. It's crazy to think Plymouth could be in the bottom 3 at some point soon, given where they are now, which is in 16th. So Boro have pulled themselves away from that pack, 7 points clear of it now. As I say, game in hand's huge, win that, we're absolutely fine. I'm obviously still going to be disappointed that we're not going to be fighting for the playoffs, but I think our perception has been changed following our bad form of late, and I think we're all just a little bit happy to be away from the danger zone and to just settle in mid-table. You know, as I said in my last video, and as I said on the Boro Breakdown podcast at the weekend, I just want us to finish the season now drama-free. I think we've all come to the conclusion and we've accepted that sadly we're not good enough for playoffs this year. It's been a bit of a disaster in certain areas, and we just need a fresh start to go again. And hopefully, I hold my breath, but hopefully a very, very good summer to push on again next season. We just want to get to a position of safety, ensure that Carrick's going to still be here next season, and we can go again next year. And I think we've took a huge step towards that tonight. So yeah, big result for Boro. Whether it was going to come and whether we were lucky via the red card, that's for people to decide. I'm just glad we took advantage and got the 3 points, and I'm going to leave it there, guys. So Boro pick up 3 points. I'd almost forgotten what that felt like. QPR is coming at the weekend, and now let me tell you, QPR is a horrible place to go. It's another one of them bogey grounds where we do absolutely terribly. Head-to-head doesn't look good at all. Last 2 times we've went there, we've conceded 5 goals in total, losing 3-2 and drawing 2-2. And QPR are scoring quite a bit recently, and they drew against West Brom tonight. So I still would probably put QPR as favourites. And that sounds crazy, but I honestly would say I'd fancy QPR to beat us at the weekend, given our away form, given what we're like down there in QPR's form at the moment. And as much as a defeat would hurt, it wouldn't be so bad now that we've at least got 3 points on the board here. So I'd take a point away from QPR. I'm gonna predict we'll draw. I'm gonna say 2-2, but a win I can't see at the moment. I'm not that confident, but we'll see. You know, one more win, if it is to come at the weekend, I think would put us safe, and we can just relax then and wait till August, I guess. But we'll see what happens at QPR at the weekend. But a big win for Boro tonight in Norwich, and do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, whether you're a Boro fan, Norwich fan, or neutral, especially your thoughts on the red card, and if you thought it was harsh or not. If you're watching on YouTube, as I say, do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on your podcast provider, do give me a like, a rating, and a follow over there as well. I'll be back at the weekend to review the game away to QPR. But until then, a big thank you for watching, guys. Do take care, and I'll see you all in the next one. Up the bloody Boro.